What is up? Welcome into the Early Edge, powered by SportsLine. I am your host, Alan Bell, and you know the deal. Wednesdays, 3 o'clock Eastern, every single week, we're going to go through the college football week of what we have, find our best bets, and knock these things down. And look, nobody wants to spend more time looking at my face, so let's bring in the stars of the show. Look at my guys. Now, gentlemen, what I want to do first is let's bring up how we did last week. And I say that because you guys crushed it. Another great week that you guys had. Yeah, let me pull this up here so everybody can see. Micah, you went 2-0. Rutgers, Boston College both come through. Chip, you come through 4-2, baby. A nice week. Nice week. So it brings the show 36-22 total. 62% against the spread. Say it's pretty good.
It's making money.
Yeah, it's making money indeed. And Tom, we missed you last week. So you know what? We'll say hello to you first. How we doing, buddy?
I'm good. I didn't get a single pick wrong on the show last week. I wasn't here. It's just a perfect week.
See, you know what? That's what you strive for. Just perfection. That's what Tom Fornelli is. Chip Patterson, how we doing, buddy?
High volume shooter. Another loaded card again today because you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Michael Scott, Wayne Gretzky.
Boom. I love it. That's that. Literally, I think that's the greatest whiteboard of all time. Michael Roberts, how we doing, my man? You look good.
Yeah, we're doing excellent. UNLV had a nice outcome the other. Didn't get the win, but it showed some heart and flair. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to work out very well for them against Texas San Antonio this weekend.
It's going to be a little bit more difficult. It sure is.
Yes.
So I'll tell you what. Let's jump right into the storylines here and what we've got that's affecting the Week 5 betting here. Chip, I'll start with you. You got some information on us on market value strength.
Yeah, basically, we're trying to look at something that happens, first of all, with the AP poll voters, because we always know that AP rankings are going to influence the way that a lot of casual bettors are looking at these teams, ones who aren't trying to use their own set of numbers, their own set of ratings or rankings. And AP voters have a habit at this time of year to just sort by the loss column and just take anybody who's got a 0 in the loss column and you just continue to move them up, You know, looking at teams like a Wake Forest, like a Boston College, looking at some of the other teams outside of what we thought was going to be the top 30, 35 teams in the country. And so we try to find some opportunities where maybe a team's value is overinflated because it has a 0 in the loss column. We cashed Baylor last week. I told you that I thought that the team had really turned it around. However, is there going to be an overcorrection since they have a 0 in the loss column when a lot of that work was done against the likes of Texas Southern, Texas State, and Kansas? So I think that I'm just trying to keep an eye on the different spots where teams might be undefeated or they might be a 1 loss, but the strength of how they got there might make that a little bit deceiving when a team with 1 or 2 losses might actually be the better team and a little bit overlooked and underrated.
I love that look. I love looking inside the numbers, inside the battle between the books and the bettors, right? I think it's phenomenal, the information that you have. And Tom, I'm going to throw it to you because you literally go right into this topic. Is it time to fade all the teams that are 4-0 against the spread?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend just doing it blindly, but if you look at the way, you know, betting works and spreads work and the numbers are, like there's variance in every single game from game to game, but over time, everything kind of just trends towards the middle. So this is that time of the year where we're starting to see a larger sample size. So it's not just 4-0 teams against the spread, but it's also on the other side. You could look at teams that are 0-4 against the spread. Like if you're close on a game and you're kind of leaning one way and you check to see, oh, this team's 4-0 against the spread and you're going against them, that might help push you. Or if they're 0-4 and you're saying, okay, well, just the math is going to balance out at some point. They've got to cover eventually. It's not something that I would say should be your strict decision maker, but I do think it's something you should consider when looking at these teams and you are breaking down games because eventually, like I said, everything regresses towards the mean.
Yeah, you know, I that same topic, like looking at it in the NFL, right? Like I think there's some opportunities there. You know, teams like the Denver Broncos, right? Like when are they going to come back down to the median, right? Like I'm with you. I love looking at that. And speaking of the numbers, Micah, you've got some information on us on trends, things that we need to know in regards that's going on in the sports betting world of college football.
Well, right now what we're seeing is home teams covering the spread 158 to 144 and 3. That's 52.3%. And then we have the favorites 143 and 59 against the spread 47%. The home dogs is the only thing that is standing out there. And ironically, it has the exact same number that we had last week. 62% home dogs, 41, 26, and 3 against the spread. That's one of the first things I always try to look out and make an excuse for. And then if the numbers and my ratings don't add up, I'm on that side. So something to look forward to here coming up this week.
No, I love it. That's great information. And everybody, before we jump into the picks here, I want to say, obviously, hit that like button. It's very important. I'll tell you the most important thing, and we'll give away some subs for doing it. Hit the subscribe button, all right, on YouTube, youtube.com/sportsline. You see it there. Excuse me. Hit that subscribe button. That is very, very, very important to us, and I'm telling you, I will reward you for doing so in this show today. So please, if you're out there, you see that button, hit subscribe. It's extremely important to us. You can help us out a ton. Now, let's jump into some picks. All right. So we've got some nice ones. And Chip, like you said, you've got a full board of picks again this week, which is why I love it. Whenever I get the email from you and I look and it's like a smorgasbord, right? Like I'm looking at it and I'm telling you, me and Coach sit there and we'll look at everybody's picks. Obviously, we were riding all you guys because this show is hot. But we like looking as soon as they come in because it's like, all right, here are our experts, here are our guys. So the first one you've got UCLA taking on Arizona State. UCLA's at home, getting 3.5. You like the Bruins here?
Yeah, I think it's the second best team in the Pac-12. And I think if you're hanging on to Arizona State and what you thought it was going to be, then you're probably going to end up losing money because so far this Arizona State team is not one that is going to be very good at covering spreads because they just generally play a little bit conservatively. And while Jaden Daniels is the kind of playmaking quarterback that you absolutely do not want to be going up against in a crunch time scenario, and he's driving on you in the fourth quarter with a go-ahead chance to win, I also think that maybe there's been so much tape on Jaden Daniels that he needs a little bit more from the skill positions that just doesn't seem to be there in terms of real difference makers to stress a defense. When I can key in multiple guys on Jaden Daniels, I've really taken away something that has made Arizona State's offense so effective in the fourth quarter over time. I just am starting to really come around to reordering my Pac-12 expectations. And so if I think the Bruins are going to be able to win this game by a touchdown and we can catch this thing under 4, yes, I know we're a hook over a field goal. I think it's a good value. It feels like a UCLA wins by a touchdown or more kind of game to me.
I like that analysis. Now, Tom, I'm here in Nashville. All right. Mm-hmm. A lot of my friends, good Tennessee fans, right? They had a tough one last week against Florida. Florida ended up covering late. But you've got Tennessee +3 on the road at Missouri. What are you seeing out of the Vols?
Yeah, I think the Vols are a little bit undervalued here against this Mizzou team. I know that I still think some of the preseason expectations might be tinkering with this line a little too much. But so far, like if we're looking at Mizzou this season, defensively, it's been a mess. Like their defensive coordinator from last year, Ryan Walters, left. He became the defensive coordinator at Illinois. And this went from being one of the better defenses in the country last season to one of the worst right now. If you look at a per drive rate, they are allowing 2.72 points per drive, which ranks 115th nationally. That's worse than Vanderbilt. That's down in the Vandy, South Florida, Georgia State kind of section, which is not really a section where you want to be when it comes to ranking in anything. And I think that this is a Tennessee team that offensively, if you look at what they've been able to do in the passing game, not surprisingly, they are a capable passing team. They've struggled a little bit in the run game, I think, but I think they're going to find success against this Missouri defense. I do think defensively they have concerns and they'll probably give up some points themselves, but I just don't see Missouri being that many points better than Tennessee right now. I think these are two very even teams, and I kind of like the Vols in this spot. So I'm taking them to cover, but I won't be shocked at all, obviously, if they win this game outright.
Yeah, Tennessee's a fascinating team. Like, they're not great. They're not good, but they're not bad either. Like they'll put some points on you. They're going to give up some points, but they'll put a few on you too. Like they're better than people think. I like your analysis here, Chip. You say
to Tom's storyline. Missouri 0-4 against the spread. Tennessee 1-3 against the spread. Yeah, you're going to hear all these people talk about the 4-0 against 4-0 teams that are playing here in week 5, the battle of the undefeateds. No. We are more interested in the teams that are 0-4 against the spread going up against the 1-3 against the spread. Who will cover?
I like it. I love the energy here. Now, I have a homework assignment for you guys, anybody in the chat. And I've noticed it the last 2 weeks. Florida first halves, they don't put up a lot of points. Like, I think that this team could be had in the first half. I'm interested to watch them against Kentucky this week, but just pay attention. Like, I was noticing that coming out of the Alabama game, and that's Alabama, right? Like, they're going to do that to a lot of people. But then I saw it against Tennessee, and I think Tennessee led at halftime or was close. Like, there's something weird about this Florida team. It's either they're not very good in the first half or they're extremely good in the second half. But I can't figure it out. But there's a little bit of a trend that's forming there. Now, speaking
of fire an answer off the top of my head.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
They lean on you with the run game. You're just eventually gonna like get worn down chasing around Emory Jones in the rushing attack. It's like part of the game plan. We're gonna keep doing it, and then eventually you're just gonna end up breaking down and missing out, and we're gonna hit a big play on you. It's like it's part of the way Florida wins.
And you know what? That makes sense. Like, and hopefully it didn't come off like that I was speaking negatively about that team. They're a fantastic football team, but it was just odd. Like 2 weeks in a row, I was like, maybe there's something here. You know what I mean? So I'm fascinated to see it. Now, speaking of last week, I faded South Carolina against Kentucky, right? Took Kentucky. I think I had, 5.5? Covered that one pretty close, a little closer than I thought that it was going to be. But, Micah, you've got Troy +7 at South Carolina this weekend.
Yeah, and it all starts from the ratings that I keep up with every week and follow. And I actually have Troy 2.5 points better than South Carolina on a neutral field. Let's give South Carolina 5 points for home field. It's going a lot of expectations for them to win and beat a team like Troy. Who is Troy? That a lot of people are going to come in saying, but Troy has the number 4 defense in college football, and they get after it. And I think last week they had a horrible loss at Louisiana Monroe, 23-point favorites, dropped, trying to come back on the 4-yard line, got intercepted, ran it back, and that was the end of that game. I think they were looking forward to this game, actually. And I think what we're going to see in this game is 2 solid defense going head-to-head. What do you guys call it, a rock fight? Yeah. That's what this is going to be. I mean, you're going to have points where you're going to probably do in-play wagering. You're going to go under 27.5. That's just my thought. I think it's going to be there. You're going to see it up there, a couple field goals trading. And Luke Doty's in there. He had to face Georgia and Kentucky's defense the last 2 weeks, all out of whack, did not get any cohesion going at all. I think that's going to carry over this week because Troy is not going to lay down in this game. I think it's going to be a close game. Take the points. I think the spread should only be 2.5. I think I have value there taking +7.
Yeah, 7 points with almost anyone against South Carolina seems like almost an auto bet, right? Like, I mean, there's not that great of a team. Now, a question here in the chat. Casey Nack says, man, what can I do to get a year-long sub? Love watching this show. Best thing on YouTube is Twitter handle. First off, appreciate you. Thank you. I'll tell you what. If you could rally the troops and get people to hit that subscribe button, I'll give you a free year-long sub right on the show. But you got to get people in the chat and you got to get people to hit that subscribe button. I look at the numbers. If you could do that, I'll give you a year-long sub. Absolutely. So just want to put that out there. It's important. Now, back to the picks. Chip. Rutgers. Big battle against Ohio State, but they're at home. You got Rutgers +15.5.
Yeah, I'm just willing to open my heart and mind to Rutgers being good. You know, we were talking earlier today about the best divisions in all of college football and whether the Big Ten East is starting to close down on that gap with, the SEC West. We would consider the SEC West the best division in all of college football, no questions asked. But I think if you dropped the last place team in the Big Ten East into the Big Ten West, they'd be 3rd or 4th. In the SEC East, they'd be 3rd or 4th. I just think that is the quality of competition that we've got in that division, and Rutgers might be good. And so with Ohio State, clearly not a team that I am willing to trust at covering more than 2 touchdowns, especially because I don't think the Scarlet Knights never really seemed as close as the score showed against Michigan. I do think that they were competitive enough for it to be worthy of considering it an actual game for all 60 minutes. And I think we see a similar effort here against Ohio State. This Rutgers team, man, it's like the advanced analytics say that this team should not be as good as they are. I'm willing to just ride with it and say that they might actually be a pretty good football team.
Now, when you say pretty good,
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
When you say pretty good, put some context on that because I think that's a dangerous statement.
I think they can stay within 2 touchdowns of Ohio State, and that means you're able to limit explosive plays. You're able to play some bend but don't break. You're not going to have a total boneheaded coverage bust. You're going to do your best to take care of the ball and not give free opportunities. Like you're playing at a right around that sort of average level that you need to force Ohio State to be good rather than let Ohio State roll over you because you are bad.
They don't turn the ball over. They don't make mistakes. They're very well coached. They don't make a lot of penalties. They're tough in the red zone. I mean, everything, you go down every stat on defense, and you're seeing Greg Schiano's work look strong. And the Buckeyes are going to have a tough time not only covering, but winning the game, I think.
Yeah, I will say, I think that what Rutgers has done exceptionally well this year, we've talked about it on the Cover 3 podcast, is they're just, every play is a pain in the butt against Rutgers. Like, there's nothing easy. They make you work for everything. My concern in this matchup, though, is that Rutgers, like, if you look at the teams they've played, they haven't played a team with nearly the kind of passing threat that this Buckeyes team has. And I do worry about how that could impact them over 60 minutes. Again, I don't dislike the pick. I'm a little wary of them in this spot.
Yeah, it's interesting. And, Ohio State's a team I look at, like, when are they going to explode, right? Or when is it all going to come together? And is Rutgers a team that they do it against? But I also agree with what you guys are saying. Rutgers makes you earn every yard. Like, it's not a pretty game. And if you're one of these higher echelon teams, you're going to win. But they make you earn it. Like, it's a fight. It's a rock fight. Yeah, for sure. All right, Tom, you got Southern Miss plus 2.5 at Rice. This is what I love about this show, is that it's not just, the top 6 games. Like, we're finding all of these diamonds in the rough here. So, yeah, Southern Miss plus 2.5 at Rice. What are you seeing there?
You're talking about, this is like the biggest game of the weekend. I mean, come on. No, I took Southern Miss earlier this season against South Alabama because my numbers told me that Southern Miss was the best team and it was the underdog, and it did not work out that way. South Alabama murdered them. But this is another situation where my numbers are telling me that Southern Miss is better than Rice. And I look at these two teams so far in the season, and Rice has played the more difficult schedule to this point. But when you just break them down, both teams are bad offensively. Rice is horrible defensively, and Southern Miss is just kind of average, like below average. And this Rice defense hasn't shown the capability of stopping anybody. So in a matchup like this between two even teams, as far as my power ratings are concerned, even with Rice being at home here, I don't think the home field advantage for Rice is really worth a whole lot. And I think this is a Southern Miss team that offensively, I think Will Hall has a very interesting offense. And I think it's one that Southern Miss, that the longer they go in the season and the more that the players in that offense pick up and start to understand the offense, the better that it's going to get. And I think this weekend against Rice is going to be an excellent opportunity for the Eagles to get some things figured out offensively. Defensively, like I said, they're much better than Rice, and Rice has just been bad in every single facet. So it's really difficult for me to trust them as a favorite against anybody right now.
Yeah, it's always nice to be getting points against a team that is horrible defensively. Like, you just feel good because you're like, all right, I feel good about scoring. You know what I mean? It's like, can we just keep them out of the end zone in 3 drives, right? Like, if we could get 3 drive stops, like, we could do this thing. All right, speaking of 3 drives, we've got an excellent game that almost made our Big 6 at the end of a show. Oklahoma State at home versus Baylor, 2 ranked teams. Micah, you're going with Oklahoma State minus 3.5 here. What do you like?
Yeah, and that goes specifically to my numbers. The game should be 10.5 in my mind. So obviously you see a number like, 3.5? I mean, it's you don't even have to really do much. It's like, that's what it says. That's what you do. But I'm looking the last couple of weeks at Oklahoma State that impressed me. Number one, Spencer Sanders had an amazing game last week. I think maybe one of the best games he's had since being at Oklahoma State. And the running game with Jalen Warren, they've got that combination going, kind of same thing they had going last year, the better quarterback play. They didn't score in the second half of the last 2 games, Boise State and last week as well against K-State. And they still won the game. And it blows me away how that happened. And the defense stepped it up. The offense couldn't get anything going, but the team had their back. So I think this is a good team building experience for this game here. Baylor's playing their 3rd road game. They got a lot of momentum going. I just don't think they have enough to get over the hump here and get the win or cover the spread. I think Oklahoma State wins by 10 or more.
Yeah, I think goes along the lines of what Chip was saying at the top of the show about that little number 21 next to the Baylor name maybe skewing the perception, because Baylor is undefeated, but they have, like Chip mentioned, they've played a cake schedule. And Oklahoma State, while it hasn't really been blowing people out, like playing Tulsa, playing at Boise State, and playing Kansas State, it's a much more difficult schedule than what Baylor's faced this season.
Absolutely.
So I do think there's value on this line.
Yeah, it's like sometimes it does matter like who you've beaten, but I'm also very interested in who you've played and what kind of games you've experienced, because you mentioned that scoreless second half against Boise State, which, ooh, what a dance for the under, right? When it's 21-20 at halftime and you're like, oh, it's cooked. Well, if you tore it up, I sure hope you had scotch tape around, because after a scoreless second half for both teams, that under still cashed, baby. I think that this Oklahoma State team, out to the Smurf turf, teams like Kansas State, teams like Tulsa, just body blows, man. You've just you know how to get into a fight, and that is makes you trust Oklahoma State. Yeah, 3.5. That's a very short number.
You know, what you were talking about, Tom, in terms of ranked teams. How many ranked teams have we had lose? 19?
25. It
25.
It's an entire AP top 25 of top 25 teams that have lost.
So it's like 25 a week.
It legitimately doesn't matter. Like, to what your point was, like, seeing that, ranked number 21. Well, okay, great. Like, it'll be a completely different, 25 next week. Speaking of ranked teams, or speaking of teams that thought that they were going to be ranked pretty high this year, Chip, we've got Boston College at Clemson this week. You're going with Boston College plus 15.5.
Yeah, last year, this was DJ Uyunglele's first opponent, and he did end up throwing for like 400 yards, and he did end up guiding Clemson back from the biggest halftime deficit at home that they had had in quite some time. I also think that there's something that we should have in our notebook from the fact that Jeff Hafley, a former defensive coordinator, and maybe the secret sauce for that Ohio State defense that's gone now, maybe he just has a good read on what you need to do to slow down DJ Uyunglele, because while DJ did end up throwing for 400 yards, it felt way more like Amari Rodgers and Cornell Powell, Clemson's two veteran wide receivers who really stepped up in a way that I don't think a lot of people expected last season. They kind of were the ones who put the offense on their back. So I am looking at Boston College. I don't have the defense ranked very highly in general, but I have Jeff Hafley as a coach with an absolute plus advantage, especially on the defensive side. Clemson's had its offensive struggles already. It's not even clicking anywhere close to what we expect from the Tigers. And so I think that if that Jeff Hafley's game plan for slowing down the Clemson offense, if what we had last year worked for a half, it could work for a full game this year, which leads us to the other side, where I admit I don't have a ton of faith in Dennis Grossel and this Boston College offense being able to piece it together, because Boston College is one of those teams, like I mentioned at the top of the show. Hey, they're 4-0. Hey, look at them surging in all the ratings and the rankings. Well, they've done it against FCS Colgate. They've done it against Temple. They've done it against Missouri. Like, Missouri is maybe like the 60th best team in the country. I don't know, somewhere 40th at best. And that's your best win. I just, it's a lot to ask of the Eagles, I understand, but I just believe that Jeff Hafley has a plan for DJ in a way that will allow Boston College to stay within this number.
It's a big number. Yep. I'm with you. I like it now. Yeah, I'm with you. So, Tom, going back to you. So I've noticed a trend here. You've got 4 picks. All right, we're going to get to your third one here. This is the third one in a row. You've got a road underdog. Washington plus 2.5 at Oregon State.
I think Washington's the better football team.
Wrong team favored. Team favored. Hit the siren.
Where's your alarm? Yeah.
I mean, this is like, I think the best thing that could have happened to this Washington team, as strange as it is to say, is to start the season 0-2. Like, they opened the year with that loss to Montana. They went on the road to Ann Arbor a week later and just got beat up by Michigan. And I think that this coaching staff and this team learned a lot of valuable lessons about itself and ways they have to change their approach, particularly on the offensive end, if they're going to compete. And in the last 2 games, this is a Huskies offense that suddenly went from being stodgy, slow, and boring to not exactly, lights out, entertaining, throwing the ball all over the place, but a little more aggressive, and it's been paying off. They put up 52 against a bad Arkansas State team, but last week against the Cal team that has traditionally been pretty decent defensively under Justin Wilcox, they put up 31 points, and now they're going on the road to face an Oregon State team which is coming off a big win over USC. The Beavers beat USC 45-27 last week. But let's not forget they're playing a USC team that's already fired its coach because they've been, they got blitzed by Stanford a couple weeks ago. They were also playing a USC team that was back to having to use Kadon Slovis at quarterback because Jackson Dart, the kid who came in to replace Slovis and played really well in USC's best game of the season, was hurt. Slovis throws 3 interceptions, and that kind of has a major impact in a 45-27 game. So I think this is a Washington team that's going on the road against an Oregon State team that it's better than, and it's catching points. And I think that the Beavers at Reser Stadium have a pretty nice home field advantage, like that maybe people kind of don't realize that they got a passionate fan base. The place is packed and it's loud. But, man, they're not as good as Washington. And I think defensively that is what's going to be the difference. I think that separates the Huskies from this Beavers team. I think offensively Jonathan Smith's team is good. They will be able to move the ball a bit, but they're not going to be able to score enough points to keep up with the Huskies, I don't think, over 60 minutes. So, again, taking the points, don't hate the money line either.
I like it. Now, everybody, before we get to more picks, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It's very, very important. We want you to do it. And trust me, we're going to give away some subs here in just a little bit. But if you could take care of that, we'll take care of you on the back end. Now, speaking of taking care of everybody, Chip, that's what you do. It's what James Franklin does. Penn State. You're going minus 10.5 at home against Indiana.
Yeah, I think that there's a little bit of just general uneasiness based on, series history, Indiana being a little bit of a, thorn in Penn State's side. And certainly that result last week determined so much of how we talked about Indiana and Penn State in that very backloaded Big Ten schedule. But I see this as one where this Indiana team, they needed some real help to get past Western Kentucky. That was one of our wins last week. Western Kentucky +9. Indiana ends up winning that game by 2, and maybe some poor decision-making by Western Kentucky on the 4th down near midfield let a Hilltoppers victory get away. I think that as Indiana, who has been through the ups and downs, they had the Cincinnati game at home, this Western Kentucky after that. Now they arrive in Happy Valley. Penn State got to take last week off against Villanova. Freshmen got all the burn. Everyone's feeling good, feeling fresh. After last year's loss, everyone brings it up, but I need to give the credit. Kenny White, SportsLine, loves a revenge game. Loves the revenge factor, loves a revenge game. And this might be a revenge game. 10.5 might not be enough because Penn State is 2 touchdowns better. And I don't think that Indiana is going to be able to score enough to stay within that number across 4 quarters.
Anytime we can get a Kenny White, the Wizard of Odds, anytime we get a shout out to him on the show, I'm always for it. Love him. All right, now, Tom, you're going back out West Coast. Oregon, -8 at Stanford. You've got 4 road teams. Now, this one's a favorite, but you're going with the Ducks here. Only 8. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm a little scared what Micah brought up earlier about the trends of home dogs this year, but this is a pretty simple case for me. My numbers tell me that Oregon should be favored by 12.5, 13 here. So to catch it at only getting 8, it's impossible for me not to not take this one. And I think that it's backed up because the reason I have Oregon favored so much over Stanford in this spot is because that Stanford defense has just been soft. They are 109th in the nation in points allowed per drive. They have not really shown a propensity or an ability to stop anybody outside USC in that one blowout win that got Clay Helton fired. But other than that, teams have been able to move the ball pretty easily against this Cardinal team. And I think Oregon is just, you look at the Pac-12, and obviously this is a conference that has plenty of problems. It's not really great. We look at the Pac-12 South. We've talked about USC being bad. Oregon, to me, is head and shoulders above everybody else in this conference. And I think that's going to be a trend week in and week out. It's going to kind of look like Ohio State in the Big Ten the last few years, where Oregon's winning every game by at least 2 scores. And I think that's what's going to happen here. They're going to go down to Stanford. They're going to win by 2 scores, and they're going to cover this one really easily.
Yeah, it seems like really good value. If you're getting that at a single-digit number, right? It feels. I'm with you. Everybody in the chat, you see we are almost to 100 likes. Please help us get there. Hit that like button. Drop your Twitter handles into the chat. I will choose a winner. and we will get you a year-long subscription to SportsLine. So make sure, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and we got plenty more gifts that we're going to give away throughout the show. Now, to wrap the segment up, Chip, you've got 3 more plays. All right. You got Kansas State plus 10.5. Hey, go through them somewhat quickly, but take your time. Like you've earned it, my man. Take your time. We want to know the knowledge. Kansas State plus 10.5 versus Oklahoma. Pitt minus 3.5 at Georgia Tech. Actually, just 2. Yeah, just hit those 2. We'll wait on the third one.
So Kansas State is not the best version of Kansas State. And this Kansas State, normally, if this game was being played and we had Skylar Thompson in the lineup, we were totally healthy, and especially if we weren't coming off that Oklahoma State result, we'd maybe even be talking about a money line sprinkle. But I think that in addition to Kansas State plus 10.5, I would not hate the under here. I think that Kansas State's defense is going to be able to take all of that game film from the West Virginia game and be able to put a lot of that into play with a very experienced and a well-coached defense that the Wildcats have. I don't see Oklahoma's offense using this as a get-right game, and I think that the Wildcats can find just enough points to be able to cover this double-digit spread. If it gets inside 10, then again, I think that your off-ramp from a wagering perspective is to take the under, because either way, I see this being a low-scoring game. Pitt minus 3.5 against Georgia Tech. Of course, let down for Georgia Tech. I mean, you just beat North Carolina in a game that you moved to the big body bins. You're really fired up because you had all the recruits possible in there and made it just sort of a big show, a big part of the Jeff Collins experience trademark. I also go back to last year where this Pitt offense that isn't great at running the ball, this was one team they ran against. Vincent Davis had a really big game, and this was one of the few games last year where Pitt was able to move the ball on the ground. Kenny Pickett has thrown for 5 touchdowns in each of the last 2 games, like 11 touchdowns on the season already. This Pitt passing offense is awesome, but it's the balance, and it's the fact that Pitt can also run the ball against this opponent that has me thinking the Panthers are going to cover this number.
I like it. Any thoughts that you guys have?
I like it. Nothing. I mean, I don't really. I
wasn't forcing you to an answer. If you like it, you like it. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the way Oklahoma's played this year, I can't trust them to cover double digits against anybody. And then Pitt, just Pat Narduzzi, close games. They always win.
Yeah, and you know, you guys brought it up last week, Chip, when you talked about how Spencer Rattler is who he is.
Yeah.
Like, and once you understand that, like, Oklahoma makes a lot more sense. Like, you guys talked about that. And honestly, I needed to hear that, right? Because after that, they make a ton of sense. I know exactly who they are.
And they're a good team. They are still a team that is competing for the Big 12 championship and the worthy favorite for the Big 12 championship. But they're not that high-flying thing that you cooked up in your head with our – that's our problem. I mean, college football got too long in offseason. We just sit around and we start dreaming little video game simulations of all these players while we're flipping through our Phil Steele and breaking down depth charts. It doesn't play out like that, all right? They don't score as many touchdowns as they do in your dreams.
That's a T-shirt right there. All right, so we're going to get into the biggest games of the week. We're going to make our picks on this. But first, we've got to give out a year sub because we got to 100 likes. So congratulations. Thank you so much. Continue to hit it. Let's get to 200. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube as well. But we couldn't go to anybody else but our man KC next. Well done. Congratulations. Proud of you, man. Yeah, you did your work. You did your work in the chat. We're proud of you. There it is. There it is. I was waiting on it. I love it. So congratulations. I'll get with you after the show, get you hooked up. And everybody, please continue to do that because we have more that we're going to give out. So don't stop hitting the like button and the subscribe button. Okay, so we've given away those picks. Now, we're going to get to the biggest 6 games of the weekend. The games everybody wants to bet on, right? So let's start it. And you know what, Chip? We're going to start with you because you have an official pick on this game. So we've got Michigan at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a 1-point favorite, a total of 43.5. Who you got?
Michigan's good. Michigan's a good football team. We talked about the Big Ten East being awesome, and part of me excited about these Big Ten East teams is that it's not just Ohio State, that Penn State's been great. Michigan State's exceeding expectations. Maryland's got an awesome opportunity that we're going to talk about in a little bit with Iowa visiting. And I think that Michigan is a pretty good football team. Now, 20-13 against Rutgers is not the result you wanted. I would have liked to see them cover that 3-touchdown spread. But I think that this is a situation where too much is given, maybe either to Camp Randall or just believing that Wisconsin is going to be competing for a Big Ten title, because right now the Wisconsin offense is not good enough to win the Big Ten title. You don't need an awesome offense to win the Big Ten title this year, or at least especially the Big Ten West, where Iowa is clearly your front runner right now. But you at least need more than what Wisconsin can offer. Notre Dame had zero respect for their ability to move the ball through the passing game. 8-9 guys in the box, and that's how you slow down Wisconsin's run game, is just with numbers. Michigan's got a really, really strong defense. I think they're more than happy to play a field position game, and eventually I think this Michigan offense will be able to get something going in the running game, because this Michigan offense, even though they're not really dynamic passing the ball down the field, they at least have more of a threat than what we see from Wisconsin. So I like Michigan as the better team, even on the road. And so I will take that point and believe they're going to win the game.
I like it. Now, Tom, you're leading Michigan +1 as well.
Yeah, I'm with Chip on a lot of those same things. I mean, it's just really hard for me right now to trust Graham Mertz and that Wisconsin offense. And honestly, I know they haven't made an announcement about it publicly, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a quarterback change for Wisconsin in the near future. This is just an offense that, like Chip mentioned, like Notre Dame just threw 8 guys in the box, took out Jake Ferguson by putting Kyle Hamilton on him, and dared Graham Mertz and that Wisconsin offense to be able to move the ball to their receivers. And they don't have receivers who are capable of, beating guys consistently. And when they have beaten guys, Graham Mertz is overthrowing them by about 10 yards. Mertz is just a quarterback right now who, if you look at his body language and you look at him out there on the field, he's got no confidence in himself. And I think that he's being hung out to dry in an offense that's really not built for him. And he's got among qualified passers in the country right now, he's got the highest interception rate of anybody in the nation at 6.3%. He's thrown more pick sixes than he has touchdowns. That's not great. That makes it difficult to trust. And I think Wisconsin's defense is phenomenal. I think Jim Leonard's done a fantastic job. And because of that, Michigan's not going to blow them out. It's going to be a lower scoring game. I don't hate the under, but I do think the total's just about right. But I do worry about Wisconsin's defense just mentally breaking from knowing that no matter how well it plays, its offense just keeps putting it in horrible situations time and time again. So I think that Michigan, with its rushing attack, it's not going to have a huge game, but it's going to be able to go out there to Madison and stay close. And Wisconsin's going to be the team that makes the mistakes that kills it. And that's going to give Michigan the win and the cover.
Yeah, that game last weekend for Wisconsin, that was a horrible, horrible ending. But Micah, my man, you're on the other side here. Wisconsin -1. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I went over and over again, and I've got neutral field 1.5 points favorite for Michigan, and then it's debatable on what you call, because Michigan's a better team. You don't really give them a full strength for the home rating. So let's just say, 2.5, 3 for home field. So the spread's right around where it should be. So I don't have any edge either way. And Michigan, my goodness, 290 yards rushing per game. Average score is 40-11. Undefeated. Jim Harbaugh, he's got his kids believing again. But they have not covered or won the last 6 meetings at Madison. And I think that means something here. And the thing with Mertz, I think we're going to see a turnaround, because he's still the starter. He could have been pulled out after last week's 4-interception performance against Notre Dame. But they were in that game for most of the way until the second half implosion. I think Mertz is going to be grateful for having the starting job still, and we'll know that he's a test. He could be gone next week if he does not perform well and do better. And obviously, his first 2 games last year were amazing, and he's just gone downhill from there. But I think this is a spot at home. He's going to have his team support. He's going to have his coach support. And I think that means a lot to him that his coach stood with him here. And I think you're going to kind of have a redemption game for the quarterback Mertz, and beat Michigan. It'll be a big win for them.
I think the biggest thing working against Mertz right now is if you look at the names behind him on the depth chart, Wisconsin's got a lot of elite quarterback names back there. They've got a guy named Chase Wolf, Danny Vandenboom, Deacon Hill. Those are guys with awesome names that it's like, if Mertz doesn't get it figured out quickly, I mean, how do you not want to pull out a guy named Chase Wolf and say, Chase, go win us this game?
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah, you got a Wolf and a Deacon and a Vanderdoom, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, that's fascinating. Micah, you bring up an interesting point that I always love, and I generally bet on when guys have their backs against the wall, right? When it's legit, do or die. Now
he's just got to get his head mentally straight, and he hasn't been that. But I think at home it's going to be a different story, and I think they're going to put some different wrinkles in so Michigan can't just key on them. And the time of possession, regardless of what they've done so far this season, they're like a top 5, 36 minutes per game as far as possession. They're moving the ball and having success with the run game and the short passing. They just need to eliminate the interceptions. Easier said than done.
Yeah, it's a low total too, 43.5. But as you guys broke it down, this game doesn't feel like a shootout. You know what I mean? Like it feels like that clock's going to be running pretty much the entire game. Now, speaking of teams that we might not be respecting, and I don't know the answer yet on this. We've got Cincinnati at Notre Dame. Cincinnati's a 2-point favorite, total of 50.5. What do we do with this Notre Dame team? Because it doesn't feel like they're great, but they keep advancing. You know what I mean? Like they just keep going. So, Micah, I'm going to throw it back to you. You've got Notre Dame +2 in this one.
Yeah, wrong team's favorite, guys. It should be. Yeah, here we go. It should be. You're going to give Notre Dame 5 points for home field. I think they're basically the same. Maybe Cincinnati favored a little more on a neutral field, but the home field means a lot here. And I think just like you were saying, Alan, is they bend but don't break. And I think they got a lot of momentum going from last week. Big emotional moment. They go back home. They're going to celebrate a little more here. Cohn's expected to play. And I look at what Cincinnati has done. I'm not very impressed with the Indiana win anymore. They were outgained actually in that game. Murray State and Miami, Ohio, Desmond Ritter's been amazing, but I think this is going to be too much for them. I'm going to roll with Notre Dame to keep this going and become relevant in national talk and playoffs maybe in a couple of weeks if they keep it going.
Chip, you feel the same way? Notre Dame +2.
Love their mojo. No, this is like Notre Dame is a football program where you can apply some of those old fairy tale storylines. I mean, it goes all the way back to the 2012 BCS title game run. Like it's just one of these squads that if they do, because like confidence is real. Like we always like to talk about that, like, is momentum real? It's like, well, One thing that you can say is confidence is real. And Notre Dame has been in a season's worth of games already. Now, maybe they're peaking early and maybe they're going to end up running out of steam by the end of the season. Come talk to me in November when we're doing this show and we're trying to break down the Fighting Irish game. And I might be like, guys, they're exhausted. They burned everything they had in all these huge games that were all stacked at the beginning of the year. But I think they're still riding high right now. And, that Soldier Field crowd was very Notre Dame friendly. And you get to bring all that confidence and all that juice back home. I don't know what kind of game they're going to play because they've won low scoring. They've won high scoring. They've gone to overtime. They've nearly blown leads. Like there's so many different experiences this Notre Dame team has had. And the one through line is W's. So I think they win. You're going to give me 2 points. Sure. You're going to flip it to -1. Sure. Notre Dame wins this ball game.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Like, I think you bring up a good point. Like they've literally played in every style of game. And it's week 5, right? Like, I mean, yeah, they've done it. They've gone through all of it. So I'm with you. And I think my favorite play, I agree with you guys on Notre Dame there. Now, Tom, you might have my favorite play, under 50.5. What do you say?
I agree with both Chip and Micah's play on the spread because I feel like principle alone, Cincinnati, great team. I think they've done a lot. I think they're the best group of 5 team in the country. But to be favored on the road at Notre Dame?
Notre Dame?
Really? Because they beat Indiana, Murray State, and whoever it was they played in the first game. Okay, sure. But I really like I like the total better here. I like the under. This is just 2 teams to me. I think Cincinnati is outstanding defensively, and I think Notre Dame's been very strong defensively too. And I think that on the road, Cincinnati in this spot, it's not going to have an easy time moving the ball offensively. I think that they're going to struggle. I think that Notre Dame's offense, it's been a little too hit or miss to trust. They have really struggled to run the ball this year in particular. That is a major concern for me for the Irish offensively. I think going forward, that could really haunt them. But just looking at this matchup, I don't see Notre Dame being able to run the ball against Cincinnati, and I don't think Cincinnati is going to have the same kind of success against this Notre Dame defense that it's been able to have against, Indiana and Murray State. And I think this is going to be a lower scoring kind of sluggish affair. And also the weather forecast is playing a role here too, because it's supposed to be windy on Saturday in South Bend with rain. So that's never really, beneficial for an offense.
Yeah, good point.
The way Chip pops to the weather, I love it. It makes me smile. It just makes me smile. Now, speaking of weather, well, it really has nothing to do with weather. Let's just get weird. All right. One of my favorite games every year that is just banana land. Anything can happen, especially in the stadium that it's being played at. Auburn at LSU. LSU's a 3.5-point favorite, total of 54.5. All right. Chip, I'm going to start with you. You go with the Auburn Tigers here, plus 3.5.
Not a confident play, right? We offer our official picks. That's what you're going to hold me to when we open up next week's show. But we always like to give our analysis and at least our lean on this one. I would, if you want to play it live, if you maybe you want to follow the picks of Tom or Micah here, I'm going to tell you Auburn, but it is far more of a, I don't know. These teams are strange. Give me the one with the points in case it's a field goal, right? The number's good. Give me the underdog situation. The variance between what both of these teams are at their best and what these teams are at their worst is a gulf. It is the Atlantic Ocean. I mean, these teams can be among the 10 best teams in the country when everything is clicking. When Auburn has gotten it rolling and they are hanging there going blow for blow with Penn State, you're looking awesome. But when Bo Nix is getting benched and you need the SEC refs to help you get past Georgia State, that ain't good, bro. That ain't going to win at LSU. And something similar could be said for the Tigers as well, especially, that wide receiver room is stacked. And we're even seeing some of the freshmen come out there and make huge splash plays. But that LSU defense is pretty bad right now, too. And I could see Tank Bigsby running for $160 and Auburn controlling the game that way. Say all that to say, no strong play. The game is weird. Neither team is trustworthy. So, therefore, I almost take an NFC least principle. Nobody in the NFC East is good. Just take the underdog in every single game between NFC East teams. That's a Tom Fornelli special. I don't know if it applies this year, but I remember it did last year. And I am using that tactic to take the underdog here with Auburn.
It's never bad to take a Tom tactic. All right, another T-shirt right there. That's going to be our hashtag for this week, a Tom tactic. Now, everybody in the chat, drop in. Who do you think is going to cover this game? Auburn plus 3.5 or LSU minus 3.5? And I'll say, this is how weird that this game is. We have 3 people, obviously, on here making your picks. We have all 4 covered here. That's how weird that this game is. So, Micah, I'm going to throw it to you. You like LSU minus 3.5, and you like the over 54.5.
Yeah, well, 7 of the last home games at LSU have gone over the total. Max Johnson's been amazing so far. I think 15 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, moving the ball effectively. I like that. And Auburn, when they're supposed to lose, they usually do. They are 0-5 against the spread their last 5 as an underdog, and against winning teams, 1-6 ATS in their last 7. So I think this is a spot where the home crowd is going to play a little more into it. Max Johnson, I just think the team's going to be fired up and get the win, and it's cheap. I have the line LSU minus 6, so that's my small breakdown.
I like it. Now, Tom, you've got the under 54.5 here.
Yeah, it's because I want nothing to do with the spread because I'm with Chip. These teams are weird. I don't want to have to pay attention to this game. I mean, I want to pay attention, but I don't want to have to be sweating what's going to happen with these two teams because they just do dumb stuff sometimes and it can really kill you. But I'm taking the under mostly because I don't trust either offense right now. Chip mentioned it, Bo Nix got benched last week or he was dinged up, whatever you prefer, but there's questions at the quarterback spot. I don't really think they have much of a passing game. LSU's offense is too inconsistent for me to really want to trust it. So I don't love anything in this game. And I think the fact that the 3 of us are on all 4 kind of aspects tells you they might have this one right for the most part. But I'll take the under, but it's really not something I'm highly confident in.
Yeah, and doesn't this game kick off at 9 Eastern?
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
9 Eastern. Everything about this game is insanity. Chip, you're going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say it's it might be a live game, right?
Yeah.
You get in there and you try to find some value based on how things unfold, first quarter, first half, early on, and get your edge there.
I love a game where legitimately anything can happen. Like nothing would surprise. Anything in this game can happen. All right, now we've got another game. I believe this is Friday night. Iowa at Maryland. Is it Friday night? Correct.
Friday. In the Snake Pit.
Friday night. We've got 5th-ranked Iowa, 3.5-point favorite on the road at Maryland. Total of 47.5. Mike, I'm going to start with you. You like Iowa money line, but not the spread.
Well, it's Iowa. I mean, this is a great defensive team. They're going to slow the game down and grind it out. And Maryland, I mean, the way they're throwing the ball with Tagliavola, I don't know.
Talia Tungavaloa.
Yes. That guy has been stuffing the stats. He's been impressive, but that's not happening against Iowa. And if he gets over 300 against Iowa, I'd be shocked. They've played well this season, but Iowa, I think, has just got a little more grit, a little more toughness, and they're going to cause some turnovers. They're +5 this year, turnover margins. So I just think Iowa's defense is going to win the game. They'll score a little bit to cover the game, maybe lay 3. I mean, in this type of game, you don't lay 3.5. I'm sorry, with Iowa's defense on the road. This is a spot where I'm going to just play them to win. I already did. I laid $1.60 on them. So that's my play. We're going to go defense here with Iowa.
I love the insight. Absolutely. I love the insight. That's why I wanted to go to you first. Chip, you've got Iowa with the spread. Iowa -3.5.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Maryland. This is not a play. I'm rooting for Maryland and picking Iowa. I want Maryland to win this ball game. I don't want Maryland to cover. I want Maryland to win. I want Maryland in the biggest home game since Torrey Smith was catching balls from Danny O'Brien and Florida State was coming to College Park when Maryland was in the ACC. Biggest home game since then. I want this to be a win for Mike Loxley, Talia Tagovailoa, those awesome wide receivers, and this highly erratic, highly entertaining Maryland team. I would love for them to be able to claim a top 5 win here. However, the Maryland has a long history of getting its heart broken when it gets all excited for these moments. My pick is Iowa -3.5. Rooting for Maryland, my pick is Iowa -3.5.
Well, you know what? I wanted to keep this man last because I think he's agreeing with you here. You get Maryland +3.5.
I love me a Friday night home dog. Short weeks, team favorite on the road, doesn't tend to go well, especially when your offense is as bad as Iowa's is. Now, Micah's 100% right. Defensively, this is a fantastic Hawkeyes team, and it will be far and away the toughest test that this Maryland offense has faced thus far. But if you follow me on Twitter, you can see my handle there at Tom Fornelli. I tweeted a graphic the other day that showed how teams break down as far as rushing EPA, which is expected points added, and passing EPA. This Iowa offense is in a quadrant with teams. They are in the very same spot as Illinois, Kansas, and Utah offensively. It has been very bad offensively. They have overperformed based on the defense has gotten them out of so many tough jams. It has turned the ball, forced so many turnovers, and really kind of hidden how terrible this team has been offensively. And I look at this Maryland offense at home. As Chip mentioned, it's a huge game. I'm not going to be shocked at all if Iowa wins, but I just don't trust this Iowa offense to cover that spread on the road in this spot without at least one defensive or special teams touchdown, which the Hawkeyes are more than capable of pulling off.
You know what? In honor of you, that was a nice Twitter plug, by the way, and putting graphics out there. We're going to give away a sub on this next game, okay? And here's how the game we're going to play. Now, everybody in the chat, like we said, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. It's free. All you got to do is hit it. I'm going to use the honor system here and assume that you're all doing it right now. But here's the game that we're going to play. You have to pick what you think Tom Fornelli is going to select in this game, okay? So we've got Arkansas at Georgia. Georgia's an 18.5-point favorite, a total of 48.5, okay? So to win, what I need you to do is all you have to write is Georgia, Arkansas, over or under. You have 4 options, all right? So all you got to write and your Twitter handle. Georgia, Arkansas, over, under. What do you think Tom's going to do? We'll go to him last. Chip, we'll go to you first. You're taking the road underdog here, baby. Arkansas, you are calling the Hogs plus 18.5.
Yes, sir. it would just be too much fun. And I got to be honest with you guys. Like I don't want this Arkansas story to end 42-14 against Georgia. There is a very possible outcome where this very fun Arkansas team with a defense that all flies to the ball and is well coached and is always very well prepared for whatever you want to do. Offensively, they do a good job of leaning on the ground game, utilizing. We do have KJ Jefferson injury issues, something that I understand is very much a piece of this. But I would like to see Arkansas make this a little bit of a game. I got to admit, man, this is just something I'm rooting for because we have loved watching this team exceed expectations and the way that it has competed and won against Texas and Texas A&M. Georgia might be the number one team in the country, and this would be an awesome opportunity for the Bulldogs to make that kind of statement against a hot Razorbacks team. But I would love to see this ride continue because look, it's only going to get more difficult for Arkansas. Like the next several weeks is just backbreakingly tough. So let's keep this alive at least for one more week on a cover. Let's hope this is exciting going into the fourth quarter. And if you want like some actual X's and O's, I mentioned that Arkansas defense. We have been very excited to see Georgia embrace a more explosive offensive attack. But this Arkansas defense only rushing 3 and dropping 8. If Georgia leans too much on the passing game, that might be favored towards Arkansas because of the way we've seen some quarterbacks really get spooked by that defense. It's like they don't know what they're looking at, hold onto the ball for too long, then all of a sudden that 3-man rush is able to get home. So that's where Arkansas makes this a game, is when Georgia's on offense and Arkansas is on defense. So I'll use that. But with all honesty to the viewers, I would love to have this keep going for Arkansas.
It's a fun story. Like it's absolutely fun. I'm loving watching it. I love what Sam Pittman's doing with his team. They absolutely believe in him, and it's fantastic. Now, Micah, you're going Georgia, 18.5. Cover that big number at home. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I did not bet this game, and the way I had it worked out, I gave 5 points for home field, and it comes out to Georgia minus 22. Still not enough for me to go because, like Chip, I really excited about this Arkansas squad. I want to see them compete and cover and do well over the course of the game. But it's a fairy tale in my head because I'm looking at this defense of Georgia and I'm like, this team only allows 5 points per game. I mean, and they crush you with offense that just steamroll you. So it's one of those things. I think the Arkansas kids are going to come in fired up, but I think it's going to happen quickly where they decide this is not what we thought we were. We thought we were going to come in and keep going like they're playing Texas. No, this is not Texas. This is Georgia, and the Dogs are really good. And I agree with the assessment that they probably should be the number one ranked team in the nation. And we'll find out more as the week goes on. But this is a big part of that. They got to get over this one and then move forward and just keep winning. And I think Georgia does here.
Now, you brought up a really good point. Georgia's defense is allowing 5.8 points per game. That's it. Now, it hasn't been Murderers Row, who they've played, but you play who's on the schedule.
Yeah,
and they're allowing 5.8 points per game. They're a good team. Now, let's see if we can find a winner here. Not going to lie. A lot of you in the chat didn't do very well. A lot of people. Maybe Tom threw a curveball here. Tom, you're going Georgia minus 18.5.
Yeah, I've been saying all season that Arkansas is the second best team in the SEC West, but that doesn't do you a whole lot of good against what might be the best team in the country. Now, Arkansas fans, before you get upset, just remember I picked Texas against you, and I picked Texas A&M against you, and we know how that went. So maybe I'm doing you a favor here. But this is a Georgia team that is far and away the most complete team we have seen in the country. You guys have mentioned them defensively. They're allowing 5 points per game. If you look at it from a per drive point, they're allowing 0.31 points per possession, which is the number one in the country. But what doesn't get talked about as much is offensively. If you look at success rate, which is a metric that just, keeping your drive, like as a coach says, on schedule. How successful are you on a play-by-play basis in getting done what you need to get done? The number one team in the country for offensive success rate is Georgia. So they're tremendous offensively and they're tremendous defensively. And I just think that as good as Arkansas has been, I don't think there are a lot of teams in the country right now that can hang with this Georgia team. So I think Georgia's going to win this game. I think Georgia's going to cover, and I don't think it's going to do anything to change my opinion of Arkansas. I still think it's a very good football team. It is just not nearly as good as Georgia. So I'm laying the points with the Dogs.
That's a great point. Like what happens. It doesn't take away Arkansas being a good team. Georgia legitimately might be the best team in the country, right? Like, I agree with you. All right, so we're going to go with Miguel Avila. You actually took 2 here, Georgia and the over. But you know what? There weren't many great guesses in the chat. So it was a little tough to choose from. But Miguel, congratulations. I'll get with you after the show. Like I said, yeah, congrats. A year-long sub to SportsLine is headed your way. Now, our last game. So where this game, in terms of subs, created from was from our man Chip, and we're going to do it again. So we're going to give away another year-long sub to SportsLine, but you have to hit the like button. You have to subscribe button. I'm going to look at the numbers. I'm going to assume that you're doing it. We're going to do it on the honor system here. All right, here's the game. I was almost about to say something completely other than Ole Miss at Alabama. Like, Marshall at Middle Tennessee State, like just to throw everyone off. Ole Miss at Alabama. Alabama's 14.5-point favorite. We have a total, which I think it's gone up since we started this show. We've got it at 79.5. I think it just crossed 80. 80. But yeah, we've got Ole Miss at Alabama. 14.5-point favorite for the home team, the Crimson Tide. Total 79.5. Now the game is you have to select what you think Chip is going to take. So put it in the chat. Put your Twitter handle and one of the 4. You can't choose more than one. All you have to write is either Alabama, Ole Miss, over, under. One of those 4. If you write 2, I'm just going to erase it. I'm not even looking at it. And make sure to put your Twitter handle in there. Hit the like button, subscribe button. There we go. So, Micah, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
You like the under 79.5 here.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
I'm winning the whole game, right? All the way through until maybe the very end, some crazy stuff happens or overtime. But I can't see Mississippi scoring. What do they need to score? 40, 35, whatever, based on what the spread is. By the way, the spread I give 6 points for Alabama at home, better than Mississippi, and 19.5 is the number I made for Alabama. But still, I don't want to bet it because I want to root for Mississippi. But I don't think they're going to be able to score as much as they'd like to, averaging number 152 points per game. They're not getting that against Alabama. Alabama's defense, while weathered a little bit, they're still very, very good. One of the top 5 in the nation, I think we could agree on. And I just think the spot here, this isn't 2015, 2016, Mississippi won 2 years in a row or something. We're long gone for that. This is a nice story with Kiffin, but I just don't see them hanging around. I think it'll be one of those games where 14-0 real quick, and then stuff starts to change. The kids are down a little bit, and it just ends up being another Bama win, like a 40-21, something like that. So I'm going to go under, and then I'll be winning through the entire game till I'm not, if that's the case.
I like your analysis. Now, Tom. Home team. You're on the Crimson Tide minus 14.5.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, we look back to last year's game and we talk about how Ole Miss was the team that was able to put a big scare in Alabama last year. And it scored 48 points on the Tide at home. And it lost by 15 because defensively, they were not able to do anything to stop Alabama. The Tide just moved the ball down the field against them at will. And while I think this Ole Miss defense has improved, I don't think it's improved nearly enough to wipe out what Alabama is going to be able to do to it. Because, like, you look at this team, like Micah mentioned, the points it's scoring, and it is scoring a ton of points, but it scored 43 points against Louisville on that Labor Day. And then it scored 54 against Austin Peay and 61 against Tulane. So I don't think this is the greatest offense we've ever seen. I think it's a very good offense, and I think they're going to find it more difficult on the road at Alabama than they did last year at home. Matt Corral right now is the Heisman favorite. Last year, he threw 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. I have a hard time envisioning him not turning the ball over at least once in this environment on the road. I think Alabama had its scare a couple weeks ago against Florida, and I think that's bad news for Ole Miss because now I think Alabama is aware of what can happen if it doesn't play at its best and if it messes around, and they're going to come into this game fully concentrated and fully ready to take on a team that they think is good and they know is one of their biggest challengers within the division. So like, this is the same situation kind of with Arkansas. I think Ole Miss is good. I don't think it's going to win this game, and I don't think that's going to change my opinion of Ole Miss. I think this is just Alabama, and the Tide are going to do what the Tide tend to do, and they're going to put it on them.
It's just business. It's what they do, right? I mean, it's just, we don't have to search too far.
I love that. I want that like written on the wall, like of this show. It's just business. Like I want Micah's face, and it's just business. All right. So I see a lot of answers in the chat here. And you know what, Chip? I'm not even going to take your thunder here. I'm going to let you announce what team you have.
I'm going to make you wait. So sometimes there's always responsibilities, when it's time to go to bed, there's certain routine and order of operations of things that you need to do. And one thing, if you are that person in your household, whether it's with your significant other, whether it's with roommates, or maybe it's even something that you try to do for yourself, just to always have that routine and that order of operations. I would never want to leave this responsibility up to Alabama, because Alabama is very, very bad at locking the back door. And because of that, we are on Ole Miss, and we are taking those points because that back door at that number, with a head coach in Lane Kiffin, who I believe knows the number, with Ole Miss boosters who know the number, I think locking the back door is very important. And Alabama, it just seems like Alabama is going to come out and take care of business right away. And then all of a sudden, because Matt Corral is truly forget about Heisman Trophy. In terms of being an individual and having an impact on the game in college football, Matt Corral is one of the best offensive talents in the game in 2021. And if you start going soft, if you start opening up the field a little bit, he is going to be relentless. Ole Miss's offense will be going at high speed for all of the minutes that it is on the field, and its starters will be out there against Alabama backups, because I do agree that the Crimson Tide should have this game a little in hand, but that back door has me taking the Rebels at a good number. If it gets under 14, that's a little bit tougher to come smashing in the back door on, but I think backdoor man, Matt Corral, gets us the cover for the Rebels.
Backdoor man. You're right. On the hook, we're dangerously close, to the other side. You know what I mean? But 14.5, a good number. I'm with you on that. Now, our winner, because my man followed, like you said, there's an order of operation and a way to do things. My man followed it to the T. Roger Soley, well done. Twitter handle, pick, done. Didn't need anything more, anything less. You nailed it. Congratulations. I'll get with you after the show and get you your free year-long subscription to SportsLine. And everyone, thank you so much for playing. Now, as we always do, let's get our picks here. All right? So let's run through it real quick. Chip Patterson on UCLA -3.5, Rutgers +15.5, Boston College +15.5, Penn State -10.5, Kansas State +10.5, Pitt -3.5, Michigan +1. Our man Micah is on Troy +7 at South Carolina, Oklahoma State -3.5, and Tom is on the Vols +3, Southern Miss +2.5, Washington +2.5, Oregon -8. All 4 road teams, 3 of them road dogs. I really like it. So thank you guys so much for being a part of this show. I want to give you a minute, plug what you're working on, because you guys are always crazy busy. All right. So Micah, let you go first, buddy. What you working on this week?
Baseball, pennant races. Well, not really so much anymore, but still we got the National League East kind of still open. We've got the NL West kind of still open, but reality, Giants, let's give them credit for not once being favored to win the division the entire year until maybe now. But I think it's an impressive job with a bunch of guys just getting together and doing their thing. I'm really, and I see Tom's got the hat on. So, yeah, good look, Tom.
Nice. Everyone, make sure check out Micah's work at sportsline.com. He is phenomenal. It is a just brilliant mind on so many different sports and teams. So make sure to check that out. Oh, gosh, of course. Tom, what you working on this week? What does everyone need to know? Check out your work.
Always check out the Cover 3 podcast, of course. New episode came out today with our September monthly awards for Coach of the Year, Team of the Year, all that kind of stuff. We've got the Locks pod coming out this week. My column, The Six Pack, will be out on Thursday. And also, I do pick soccer games as well. My column, The Corner Picks, will be out on Friday with my favorite soccer plays for the weekend. So check that out.
I love it. Everybody make sure to check that out. Chip, you'll clean us up, buddy. What do you got?
Yeah, youtube.com/cover3. That's where you will find us live, 11 a.m. on Thursday with the Locks, live around midnight Eastern with our instant reaction show on Saturday night, and live again on Monday for a show that we do Monday afternoons called Upon Further Review. So youtube.com/cover3. Hit that little bell for notifications so that when we go live, and you can jump in and join the fun.
Absolutely. And we say, hit that like and subscribe button for this show, and for, youtube.com/sportsline. Do the same for these guys. Check them out. If you haven't, they're phenomenal. You see them on here every week. Guys, could not thank you enough. Everyone in the chat could not thank you enough. We love this every single week. Now, we've got our picks out there. Go hit them. Take care of them. Keep the conversation going. Let us know on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, wherever. Let us know what picks you like. But I'm not going to do any coach impersonation. Nobody wants that. What I am going to say is the show's 62% against the spread. All right. And I feel pretty darn good that it's going to be another great weekend. So thank you guys so much, everyone. Let's make some money this weekend.
Cheers.
See you guys.
Do you want best bets in your feed every single day? All you have to do is hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Early Edge.